So how's everybody doing? Good? Hey, you're to be commended for being here. You know, Proverbs 5, I think, says, in all you're getting, get understanding. And, you know, everything I know I've learned, but I haven't learned all there is to know. So I'm still learning. And I think same for each one of us. Anything we can learn to, you know, better ourselves, I think that pleases the Lord. So let's just pray for a minute. Okay? Lord, we do thank you just for the opportunity. Like, thank you, Lord, that you tell us if any of us lacks wisdom, just to ask you, and you give it freely. So, Lord, I ask for wisdom tonight. I pray for those here, Lord, that you would help me convey these principles in a way that can be easily digested, and that you would use these to just help us, prosper us, help us serve you more, give us more resources for the kingdom. Just thank you for our time together tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. You know, Habakkuk 2 says, write the vision down, make it plain, that those who read it can run with it. I can't encourage you any more than do just that. Write the vision down, not just for your finances, but that's what we're talking about tonight, but write the vision down for your life. You know, get alone with the Lord and say, hey, this is what I'm good at. This is where I am today. I may be 25, I may be 35, I may be 50, I may be 65, but this is what I want to do. I believe so much of God's blessings are found in his principles. And, you know, if you will learn and apply these principles to your life, they will bless you. And the only way I can say that is because that's what I've done. I'm no different from you. I learned these principles. I begin to apply them. I'm here to tell you that they do work. And, you know, God says, I've set before you life and death, blessing and curse. Then you know what he says? You choose. Hey, you choose. I want to bless you, but you got to choose to line up and get the wisdom and the understanding of how to be successful. And when I see things in finances, I'd say probably the number one reason people aren't successful is they procrastinate. They think about it, but they never get started. That's a good idea. Maybe, honey, maybe we should do that. You know, what he said was good. Let's get going with it. But again, part of getting going is just taking that first step. So that's why I said I applaud you for being here tonight, because I think you're taking not just the first step. I know a lot of you are very knowledgeable. But again, gaining more understanding. I think the second problem, or keeps people from being successful, is just what I said, establishing a goal. And that's what I'm going to work with you tonight, just to help you visualize what money can do for you, and then what you can do with that money. And then I think the third thing is just not understanding money. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a MBA, because a lot of people that are well educated still don't understand what money can do for them. You guys are familiar, I think Rick said he talked about the rule of 72. Does everybody understand that rule? You know, it's pretty simple. I'm going to show you how. I'm going to give you a roadmap tonight to hopefully, can't guarantee or promise anything, I'm going to give you a roadmap tonight of hopefully getting $1 million. Is that okay with everybody? All right? Yeah. Well, if you're 50 years old, anybody here 50? Okay. A few of us. You should, and don't feel bad if you don't, But you should have been able to accumulate through working for the last 10, 15, 20 years, $100,000. I don't want to embarrass anybody, but do some people who raise their hands, are they there? Huh? Some people are. Some people who raise their hands are not there? Okay, well, you should be somewhere along here. Hopefully you're not here. If you are, we're going to show you how you can get going, and I can still help you get to make $1 million if you can live to be as old as Methuselah. You know? Because the greatest thing you got going for you is time. Yeah, I mean, I can't, encourage you, preach you enough. But if you have $100,000, and the rule of 72 says you take the interest rate you earn on your money, you divide it into 72, and that tells you how many years it takes for your money to double, compounding. So if you put your money in the bank and you earn 4%, how long is it going to take for your money to double? 18 years. That's a very slow strategy, but at least it is a strategy. I'm not here to tell you can earn 20%. I'm going to let the pastor tell you that. I'm a registered investment advisor, which means I have to tell you what a court of law would say a prudent person would do. So, but I think 12% is, 10 to 12. If you average 10%, your money's going to double every 7.2 years. If you average 12%, your money's going to double every 6 years. You want to move over here with your friend, or can you see? Okay. So let's say we can average 12%. That means our money's going to double every 6 years, right? Okay. So you're 50. By the time you're 56, you have $200,000. By the time you're 62, you have $400,000. By the time you're 68, you have $800,000. You're pretty close. So at some point in time, you're going to want to stop working for a check. I don't think you ever want to stop working. We're made in God's image. He's still at work. And so I think we get a lot of self-actualization and fulfillment in serving and working. So, but you may say, I want to stop working for a paycheck. Maybe now I'll start taking 6% of this money out every year. That's $48,000. And if we're still earning 12%, this money is continuing to grow for you. And you may need it because, the good news is we're living longer and longer and longer. A husband and wife who retire today at 65, there's a 50% chance one of them will live to be 92 years old. So you may say, man, I retire at 65. I may have a third of my life still to go. And so you just don't want to be depending upon Social Security and charity. You want to make some plans. So I think that's very feasible. Does everybody think, that's not pie in the sky, is it? Okay. Well, let's back it up a little bit. How many people here are 32 years old or in that neighborhood? Okay. So if you're 32, you should have $15,000 to $20,000 saved up. If you don't, that's okay, but that should be a realistic goal. Now, the reason you don't have this, you have it. You've just already decided to use it. That's right. Everybody is an investor. You're either investing in goods and services today, or you're saying, I'm going to put a little bit aside and invest for goods and services tomorrow. But everybody is an investor. So if you have $15,000 a year, 32, we average 6%. Now you got 30. Now you got 60. Now you got 120. Guess what? You're well on your way. You're well on your way. But you know what I see happen a lot? People will start this, and when they get about right here, they'll say, honey, you know, that condo at the beach looks pretty nice. Or, you know, we've worked hard and we saved our money. Let's buy that new Cadillac we've been looking at. Hey, that's okay, but you got to realize, you know, to me, this concept is like the goose that's going to lay the golden eggs for you. And why in the world do you want to get hungry and go out here and kill the goose? You know, you may have a nice full meal, but you've not only spent this money, you spent everything this money can do for you for the rest of your life. So again, if you're not 32, if you're 32 and you don't have this much money, hey, that's a good goal for you. Okay? Anybody here 25? Okay? Thereabouts? You know, if you start at 25 with $1,000, is that hard to do? Okay? And you put $100 a month in. Now, my daughter's 22, and she's a college graduate, and she's discouraged because she makes more money babysitting on the weekends than she does working during the week. She says, I can make $100 babysitting in 2 weekends. So $100 a month is $3 a day. It's a latte, a Chick-fil-A, a Blockbuster video. Again, you got to start thinking, what am I spending my money on? $100 a month is $1,200 a year. $1,200 a year at 12% interest, starting with $1,000, will give you $15,000 by the time you're 32. So that's why I said earlier, time is the greatest thing you got going for you. Now, you can take these same principles and drill them into your kids' heads, drill them into your grandkids' heads, and let them know. But I was looking at Starbucks before I came down here. I think, I can't say completely, but I think Starbucks came out in 1994, 1995. And today it's selling for around $36 a share. But for all the adjustments in price from all the stock splits, if you would have bought some when it first came out, you would have paid less than $1 a share for it. Now it's $36, so your money would have grown 36 times in about 10 years. So think about it. Every time I went in to spend $3 or $4 at Starbucks, if I just would put $3 or $4 in a little fund to buy their stock, you know, you probably have $250,000 today, 10 years later. That's the great thing about the American system. You know, stocks are just a way of owning something. There's a lot of people in Wilkesboro that did nothing but load and unload and drive trucks, and they're all millionaires today because they loaded and unloaded and drove trucks for Lowe's. And part of their compensation was they got to take a little bit of money out each month, $100, and buy Lowe's stock. But over 25, 30, 35, 40 years, it's amazing what it can do for you. As I said before, wealth is created through the long-term ownership. So long-term, so that means you got to be patient, of a growing, so it's got to be something that is growing, and you own it. It's a business. I've always told people you're much better off when you go into the bank, instead of putting your money in the bank, to buy the bank stock. 2 days ago, it showed the president of Bank of America made $97 million this year. And most of that was on stock options. They gave him stock while he was working, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. Well, that's something none of us can comprehend, but you know, you look at Bill Gates. He just started a little computer company, owned the stock, and now look. So again, you want to own something. You want it to be in a growing business. But you can basically do 3 things with your money. And I spoke before about a little old lady in Mississippi called Acela McCarty. Does anybody remember me speaking about her? She washed clothes all her life. Started when she was 14 years old. And that time, when she washed clothes, people would bring a sheet from their bed with all their shirts and pants in it, tied up. So a bundle of clothes was a real bundle of clothes, and she would wash those for 50 cents, the whole bundle, wash and iron them. But when she was 86 years old, she, at 50 cents a bundle, gave $150,000 to Mississippi State University. They said, how in the world did you get that money? She said, it was easy. I just saved a little bit every time. So maybe I got a bundle for 50 cents. I saved 10 cents of that. Now, she just put it in the bank. If she would have put it in a growing business, Lowe's or something else, it would have been well over $1 million. But, so saving is the first step. You got to have something, to invest. So the 3 things you can do with your money is you can spend it, which is very easy to do, right? You can loan it to somebody or some form, or you can own something with it. We used to teach our kids when they were little, we'd be watching TV, and commercials would come on, and we'd tell them commercials are little movies inside the big movie trying to convince you to buy something you really don't need. And that's really, but it's become so easy just to say, well, here, I want that, and just throw out this little piece of plastic. So, you want to enjoy the fruit of your labor, so there's nothing wrong with spending some money. But a real principle I really believe, this will make you a lot of money if you can just get this into you. Here's a principle. A portion of everything you earn is yours to keep. And the way I look at that, it's like you say, well, everything's mine to keep. I earn it. Yeah, but when you get ready, when you get in line, the mortgage broker's there, the utility person's there, the college loan person's there, the gasoline person's there. And so, you've already obligated a lot of that based upon your life choices. And the way people think, I got a degree in business and economics and finance, and it wasn't until I was a senior in college did a professor say, are you going to rent or own your home? Are you going to buy or lease your car? Just practical stuff that no one teaches you. So a portion of everything you earn is yours to keep. But if you don't have this mindset, then what happens is, say you're making $2,000 a month. Okay, well, your uncle wants a portion of that, so he's going to take maybe 10 or 15%. So he's going to take $300, and then the governor's going to take maybe another $100. So, now you really have $1,600 left. And the way most of us think is, well, gosh, I can afford how's everything sold? Low monthly payments. Hey, I can get that new car. It's only going to cost me $350 a month. But then it's going to cost you insurance, gas, service. So now I got $1,250, and we're renting this house. Why don't we just buy a house? So I'm going to get a house. Rates are pretty low, so I'd find a house, and maybe my Mortgage is $800. Got to pay insurance. Got to pay utilities. Hey, I'm working hard. I want to take a little bit of a vacation. And, we just kind of, till there's nothing left. We didn't even put up here the tithe. So again, if you wait till the end of the month to give to the church, most of the time it's not anything left. It's more month than money. So you have to say to yourself, okay, I'm going to give to the church, but I'm also going to give to my future. It just takes a little bit of having a vision and a little bit of discipline. And again, as we talked about, when you lend your money, you can lend it to a friend, you can lend it to the bank in the form of a CD, you can lend it to a corporation in the form of a corporate bond, you lend it to a municipality in the form of a tax-free bond. There's lots of ways. And what they do is you put in $1, they promise to pay you a certain amount of interest, 5-6% interest, and at some point in time in the future, they promise to give you your $1 back. That's okay, but this dollar isn't going to be worth as much as this dollar because of inflation. I mean, we got some people here that can tell you what they paid for their first house. And we're paying more for our cars today than he probably paid for his first house. That's just the nature of inflation. So you want this dollar to be growing to at least keep up because, basically your money is nothing more than paper and ink. That's all it is. Just a piece of paper with some ink on it. It becomes valuable when I can say, how much can I exchange this for? When I go to the grocery store or I go to the gas station. So it's just a medium of exchange. So that's why owning does much better for you. You can own real estate. You can own companies in the form of stock. You can own natural resources, form of energy. Lots of things you can own. You want to own things that, again, are going up over time. Anybody have any questions about that? So what we're going to do is we'll spend a little and own some stuff, right? Yeah. Is that what most of you guys are doing right now? How many people own stock, mutual funds, stuff like that? Okay. How many people work for a company that offers a 401k plan, a 403b plan? Yeah. Everybody participating in that? See, that's a painless way of saving. If you're not doing that, because that's pre-tax. So they take the money out before you get the check, so you don't have to worry about the end of the month trying to save. They do it for you. And then a lot of companies, if you put in $1, a lot of times they'll match 25 to 50 cents of that dollar. Does that happen to anybody? Yeah. So all of a sudden, you've earned an immediate 25% return on your money just by doing that. I mean, it's just a gift from the government. You want to take advantage of everything he gives you. In Matthew, I think 25, it talks about the parable of talents. It said the 2 came back and he had 4. He had bought and sold. The 5 came back, he had 10. He had bought and sold. And the 1 came back and said, hey, I was afraid to take a risk. So here's your 1 talent back. And the master said the very least you could have done was put it in the bank. That wasn't recommended, but he said the very least you could do. And you should have some money in the bank as just a ready reserve in case of an emergency. Usually we tell people maybe 3 months of living expenses. So if it's costing you $2,000-$3,000 a month to live, then you should have $6,000 to $10,000 just in case of an emergency. But then put the rest of it to work for you. it's tax season coming up. Does everybody know they can fund an IRA? So the two different types of IRAs, you have to have earned income. So you have to be working and have an earned income. But if you have earned income, you can set up a regular IRA. You put in $5,000. That's the maximum you can put in. You can take $5,000 off your taxable income. So if your taxable income's $30,000, you're going to pay maybe 15% on that, or $4,500 in tax. If you put an IRA in, $5,000, you get to drop your taxable income to $25,000 times 15%. It's $3,750. So by putting this money in an IRA, it saved you $750 in tax. Uncle Sam's put it in for you. So he's encouraging us to take all these 401ks, IRAs, do all this stuff. He's encouraging us to put money in. The beauty of it is it grows with no taxes. Now, there comes a day when you start taking it out that you have to pay tax. But the whole time it's growing, there's no tax. So if you can visualize your money is like a snowball. And it takes a little bit of time to get that snowball together, that $1,000. It takes a little bit of time, but it's not awfully difficult. It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of patience, a little bit of discipline. And then when you push that snowball down the hill is your life. So if you got 65 years for that snowball to roll down that hill, guess what? It begins to pick up speed and get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, the beauty of the IRA or the 401k is it's tax deferred, which means you don't have to stop it every year and take 25% of it off for taxes. So that money's compounding and growing. Uncle Sam is like Robin Hood. He takes from the uninformed and he gives to the informed. And that's really how life is. And so, again, in all you're getting, get information, get informed, get understanding. Uncle Sam will never, ever, ever forget that you owe him a tax. He'll never forget it, but he'll forgive it for a long, long time. So if I owe Bart $10,000 and I say, Bart, do me a favor, let me pay you back in 5 years, he says, okay. And do me another favor, don't charge me any interest. Well, chances are he wouldn't do that. He doesn't like me that much. But if he would, two things happens. That $10,000 is working for me for the next 10 years rather than for him. And two, when I give him back that $10,000 in 10 years, it's going to be with cheaper dollars, meaning it won't buy the same amount of goods and services in 10 years that it buys today. So he wouldn't do that, but Uncle Sam will. Uncle Sam says, I know you owe me that tax, Larry. It's okay. Sooner or later I'll get it, but guess what? This will be a much bigger pile when he gets ready to start paying it. So you want to take advantage of all these IRAs, 401ks. There's no reason not to. There really is no reason not to. And if you've kind of got yourself in a situation where you say, man, I can hardly keep my head above water, I'm in debt, you can begin to unwind the debt the same way. So maybe you say, this is where I am right now. I'm in the hole. Well, okay, just don't stay in the hole. Start filling it up. It may take you 5 years to fill it up, but once you got it filled up, then you've learned how to get this thing going in your favor. Insurance companies and banks have known it for a long, long time. Why do you think when you look at the Charlotte skyline, the largest buildings there are the banks? When you buy a $100,000 house and you finance it for 30 years at 6 or 7% interest, you probably have paid over $200,000 to $250,000 for that house over 30 years. So compounding interest is working for the banks. They understand it. Why not make it work for you? It can. It just takes a little bit to get going. In fact, Proverbs 13:11 says, "He who gathers little by little will prosper." Yeah. So despise not small beginnings. Start, we said $100 a month, $3 a day. I know every one of us here can find ways to save $3 a day. That's a Coca-Cola and a pack of crackers, or, it's not that difficult. But again, it's having that vision for what that money can do for you. And then once you have that vision, you know what it does? It's almost like a governor on a car. It kind of rules your impulsive spending habits. So you go, boy, that's a nice looking shirt. It's only $20. Well, wait a second. Do I need a new shirt? I got a closet full. What's that $20 going to do for me if I put it over here? And it takes some time, but once you get a little bit of traction going and you begin to see the results, you get encouraged. And you say, guess what? Hey, I can do $200. Now, what will probably happen is, as soon as you start, wherever you choose to put the money, it's going to go down. It's really going to test your mettle. Do you really believe this is going to work? But over time, and again, I think that's important, over time, I think this 10 to 12% is very realistic. Unfortunately, it doesn't go up 10 to 12% every year. If it did, it'd make it a lot easier and a lot less emotional. But in order to average 10%, it probably works like this. The first year, you lose 5%, and you're scratching your head saying, explain to me again how this is good. At least if I put it in the bank, I know I'm going to get my money back. And that's what happens. People say, well, I'm going to take my money out, put it in the bank. The next year, it may go up 20%. And then you go, hey, this is so good. Let's go take a second mortgage out on the house and put it there. Then the next year, maybe it's 6%, then maybe -3%, and then maybe we get a 25% year. And that's really the reality. So you have to have a long-term commitment and a long-term horizon. Doesn't mean you can't buy and sell and trade, but in my way of thinking, that's more speculating. It's okay, but I'm talking about your future, where you want to be when you're 55, 65, 75. And so you want to start putting that money aside now. And all of life isn't avoiding risk. I mean, if life was about avoiding risk, I wouldn't have got in the car and driven over here tonight, because I might be in a wreck. But all of life is about managing your risk. So I say, well, I'm not going to go 85, I'm going to go 65. I'm going to kind of be aware of other crazy people going 85. And do all within my power to control or manage the risk, but certainly don't say, well, I don't want to invest because I just know I'm going to lose. I hear that a lot. Well, part of it is having more of a positive outlook in what you're investing in. And that's how you learn, You test the waters, you do a little bit. I know Steve's going to talk here in a couple of weeks about real estate investing and stuff he's doing. I like to take more of it's not so much of a passive approach, but it's more of an autopilot approach. Here's a study that it's almost like a riddle. See if you can solve it. Over the last 20 years, the average mutual fund, which is just I'll explain what a mutual fund is here in a second for those, but it's a bunch of different, predominantly stocks. The average mutual funds average about 10% per year. That same 20 years, the average mutual fund investor has averaged about 3% per year. So that's the riddle. It's like saying to you, the average car going from here to Asheville goes at 60 miles an hour. But the average passenger in the car goes at 20 miles an hour. How's that possible? Excuse me? Swapping cars? Close. People in the bus driving slow? No. What happens is the guy in the car says, you know what, I'm getting a little nervous. Could you stop and let me get out for a while? And so he gets out. The car keeps going. He gets out. Whew, boy, that was close. Sits out there for about an hour and starts feeling a little sheepish. I probably shouldn't have got out. Maybe I'll get back in. Gets back in, goes a little while later, same experience. So that's what happens. And again, I tell you, the hardest part about investing by far is controlling your emotions. I feel like I'm more of a behavioral psychologist than I am an investment advisor because, again, it's easy to talk about it. It's easy to laugh about it. But when you get that statement and you're 50 years old and your $100,000 has gone down to $85,000, guess what? It's a wake-up call. You're saying, at this rate, I'm not going to have anything left. Get me out. That's exactly what happens. I tell you, it's hard for me. I've been doing it for 25 years. It's still hard because, again, what your money represents is hopes and dreams of the future. Educating your kids, being able to retire, being able to go on mission trips, just whatever's in your heart. That statement that, it represents. And so what happens is our emotions get involved. And the two fueling emotions are fear and greed. And, I'm guilty. I'm a human being. A human being's nature is to buy high and sell low. That's how we're wired. When we want to do just the opposite. But think about it. When do you buy something? When it's doing good. Hey, I bought this thing and it's gone up. I'm going to buy some more. You feel pretty good about yourself. And what happens? Just the opposite. See, we're wired to avoid discomfort, and we'll do everything within our power to get out from discomfort. And when you get that statement that's gone from 100,000 to 85,000, let me tell you, that's uncomfortable. And so if there's any way you can get out from underneath it, you will. And that's exactly what happens. But it's unbelievable. So I just tell myself and my folks, when that thing starts going down, just tighten your seatbelt. It's a gut level check. Now that's just not to throw caution to the wind, but you have to analyze what you have. If you're investing in one particular stock, maybe there's a good reason that it is going down, and maybe you should get out. But I think if you are in a well-diversified portfolio, you'll be much better off. I'm going to show you an example. Well, let's talk just a little bit about, does everybody know what leverage is? The real estate people do. Leverage is a way, it can really work great, or it can really work bad. It's just a little bit more of an aggressive posture. But it's a way that you can make much better return on your money. So, For example, let's say you see a house or a piece of land that's somebody's selling it for $150,000. Okay? You go talk to them and say, hey, I'll give you 10% down. So I'm going to give you $15,000. And I'll pay you 6% on what's left over. So you owe them $135,000, so you pay them 6%. So in the course of a year, you've paid them about another $8,000 in interest. Everybody understand that? Okay. So now you've got $23,000 invested, right? Okay, let's say a year from now, you can sell your property for $170,000. You paid $150,000. You've made $20,000. You invested $23,000, so you've almost doubled your money. You've almost made a 100% return on your money. And I'm sure that some of these ideas is what Rick's presenting when he says you can make 20% per year. You know, here you've made 100% in 1 year. If you don't do anything for the next 5 years, you've averaged 20%. But that's when it works good. You know, what happens, you make money when you buy it, real estate. You realize that money when you sell it. But if you don't buy it right, you aren't going to make money. Does that make sense? So maybe the property was only worth $140,000 and you paid $150,000. Then when you go to sell it, instead of selling it for $170,000, you sold it for $140,000. So you lost $10,000 plus the interest of $8,000. So you want to know what you're doing. But you can, again, nothing is as hard as it seems, nor is it as easy as it seems. It just takes a little bit of getting started. You can do it on a small scale. But these principles do work. I learned most of this stuff when I was 32. So I'm 57 today, not today, but soon. So it's been 25 years. But when I was 24 to 31, 7 years, I worked for room and board. Didn't make anything. So when I left at 31 years old, and I had done that in a Christian organization, I did it unto the Lord, gave him those 7 years. So I didn't know what I was doing. But I look back, and it's almost like I kind of tithed my life. I gave him those 7 years. And everything that I'm teaching you came out, not of that experience, but came out after I left, but I started applying these principles. And it works. I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes today meaning in the day we live in, the stock market goes up or down 2% in a day. Well, if you have $1 million invested in the stock market, it goes up 2%. You've made $20,000 in one day, which was more than I made a whole year. But it takes a little bit and a little bit and a little bit and watching it grow. I'm going to show you a couple of things, and then I got something special for you. This is what, I don't know if you can see this, but it's kind of hard to see, isn't it? Basically, it's showing what a mutual fund is. So a mutual fund is like a 50-layered chocolate cake. Okay? And each one of these layers represents a stock. And for that $100 a month, you can come in here and buy yourself a little sliver or slice of this whole pie. So this whole pie, you may own Duke Power, You may own Lowe's. You may own Wachovia. You may own Bank of America. You may own Pfizer. You may own Johnson & Johnson. You may own GE. You may own John Deere. So you own all these companies. Now, what's the chance of all these companies going bankrupt? Pretty remote. If they all go bankrupt, the country's in a lot worse problems than this little bit of chocolate cake you got. But what happens is, while you're working or doing whatever, the people that are baking this cake are going to work every day, and they're looking at these different companies. And if they see something that they don't like, they may sell GE and buy General Dynamics. So they're managing the money for you. That's what I was saying. I kind of like the autopilot. Rather than me having to do the picking and choosing, I'd rather choose someone that I feel is a lot smarter than I am, has a lot longer track record than I am, and that's all they do is they devote their time to this. And I think in this thing here, it shows you the number one investment is Altria, which used to be Philip Morris, and I think it shows that they own maybe $500 per 10,000. So that's the most in any one company. Most of these are going to have $50 to $100 in them. So let's say these people fall asleep at the wheel, and it's hard to believe, but John Deere goes bankrupt. Okay? If you had all your money in John Deere, guess what? You just got your arm cut off. It hurts. And that happened to people. I read of a couple in their mid to late 60s, worked for a little stodgy, conservative gas and electric company in Portland called Portland Gas and Electric. They've been working, been participating in the company 401k plan. They each had about $300,000, $350,000 apiece when they retired. So they have about $700,000. They worked there all their life. They retired, living off that money. Unbeknownst to them, another company bought out Portland Gas and Electric. They didn't work for Portland Gas and Electric anymore, but their money was still in Portland Gas and Electric. Well, the company that bought out Portland Gas and Electric was Enron. And Enron went bankrupt, and these people lost their life savings, again, because of one concept, which is diversification. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. My example, if you own Enron or John Deere, and that's all you own, it's very, very, very devastating. But in this chocolate cake mutual fund, if your $10,000 is invested and $50 is in John Deere, guess what? It's inconvenient, but it doesn't kill you. It doesn't hurt you. So again, that's, one of the principles, Proverbs says a just balance is a delight to the Lord. Now, I know it's talking about, weights and measures, but I think our lives, a just balance in our lives is a delight to the Lord. And finances is just one aspect of it. But a just balance, a diversification, eating a balanced diet. Protein's good for you, but if you eat sausage for breakfast and hamburger for lunch and steak for dinner, after a couple of weeks, you're going to be feeling a little puny. You need to diversify. You need to eat some vitamins, some minerals, some vegetables, some fruit. And that's what a diversified portfolio does for you. It spreads the risk out to give you more protection. You think this is possible? Huh? Because if you don't, it doesn't matter what I tell you. But if you think it's possible and you're willing to put it to work, again, live beneath your means. It's not that, it's just saying, okay, if I'm making $500, I showed you that little wash lady. She made 50 cents for a basket of clothes, but she lived beneath her means, and so she says, hey, I got $150,000. What should I do with it? I'm going to give it away. So live beneath your means. And again, be patient, have some asset allocation. I'm going to be back here in a couple of weeks. I think next week we're taking off because of the women's conference. And then I think Rick or somebody's going to be here the following week. And I'm going to be back, and then Steve's going to wrap it up. And what he said, I work mostly with people who are retired or getting ready to retire. But at the same time, I mean, you guys are my family. We are all in this together. So I would welcome the opportunity to give you some guidance. I don't know how to go about doing that. I also talk to Rick about maybe once we finish this whole session, maybe I can meet for 15, 20 minutes for 3 or 4 hours after 2 or 3 Sunday church services. Just be available and just, I can't tell you what to do without talking to you, because that'd be like me being a physician and saying, penicillin's a great medicine, everybody should take it. And you go, huh? What if I'm allergic to penicillin? Oh, I didn't think about that. So everybody's situation is unique and different. But here's my other little example here. This says, suppose you're 30 years old. So we got some people who are 30, 25. It says 1968, and you invest $3,000 in this one particular fund. And I'm not recommending this fund. It's a good story. It has a good example. So you put $3,000 in. And then over the next 35 years, you put an additional $3,000 in every year. So again, $3,000 is $250 a month. It's not unreachable. It may be to begin with. But if you did that, it means you put in $3,000 a year for 35 years. That's $105,000. But only one $3,000 has been in for the full 35 years. One's only been in for 1 year, right? How much would you hope you had? Here's a little seedling you can see sprouting up, $3,000. So after 35 years, $3,000. This is a true story, by the way. $3,000 a year. How much? Who would want? Throw out a number. Huh? $500,000? Couple of million? He's pretty ambitious. Anybody else? 15 million. Huh? 15. You're very ambitious. No. Huh? You have over $2 million. Actually, $2.8 million. Again, so that little seedling's grown into a redwood tree, but guess what? It took some time. Yeah, it took some time, took some nurturing. But it's very, very, very doable.